Every nation has a father, a man who does not just lead, but gives his people a new reason to live. For America, that man was both a soldier and a leader, and a humble servant of truth. His name was George Washington. But this is not just the story of a president, it is the story of courage, sacrifice, honesty, and leadership. It begins in Virginia in the year 1732, where a boy was born ordinary by birth, extraordinary by destiny. He was born into comfort, but life soon taught him the lessons of hardship, labor, and responsibility. When his father passed away, his mother, Mary Washington, became his greatest teacher. She said to him, "Speak the truth. Even if the whole world stands against you." Those words became the foundation of his life. As a young man, Washington worked as a surveyor, measuring lands, crossing mountains and rivers. That work gave him patience, observation, and wisdom. He once said, "Nature teaches silently every day, if only you are willing to see." But destiny had a different plan. He would not just measure land. He would shape the destiny of a nation. In his early 20s, Washington joined the army. The colonies were under British rule, and a war was brewing in the wilderness, the French and Indian War. Young George led his men with passion, but soon learned that bravery alone was not enough. His first major battle ended in defeat. Men died, chaos followed, and Washington realized failure is not the end, it is a teacher. He returned home, not as a hero, but as a man who had seen the face of war. He learned discipline, patience, and humility, qualities that would one day define a great leader. Yet, in those quiet years, he never gave up. He trained harder, studied strategy, and prepared for something far greater, a war not for land, but for freedom. The year was 1775. America was boiling. 13 colonies stood against the might of the British Empire. Taxes, oppression, and control had pushed people to the edge. Their cry was simple: liberty or death. When the Continental Congress met, they needed a leader, and they chose George Washington, a man not born to command armies, but born to inspire hearts. He took charge of a hungry, barefoot, and hopeless army. The British had power. Washington had faith. He said, "We may be weak, but we will never be slaves. God is with us if we are true to Him." The early battles were disastrous. Soldiers deserted, the dream of freedom was fading, but Washington refused to surrender. One freezing Christmas night, he led his men across the icy Delaware River and struck a surprise attack at Trenton. It was madness, but it worked. Victory at Trenton was small on paper, but huge for the soul of a nation. America had hope again. Washington proved that strength does not come from numbers. It comes from belief. Victory had come, but peace was still far away. Hunger, cold, and despair tore the army apart. Then came the darkest moment. A trusted general, Benedict Arnold, betrayed him. The man Washington once called a brother had sold secrets to the enemy. The news shattered him. But instead of rage, Washington chose forgiveness and faith. He said, "A traitor cannot break my faith. My faith is in my people and my God." That moment transformed him. He was no longer just a soldier. He became the soul of his army. He ate with his men, marched with them, and carried their pain as his own. He often said a leader is not the one who commands. First, he is the one who eats last and wakes first. Slowly, his truth healed the army. They rose again stronger than before, and in 1781 at Yorktown, Britain finally surrendered. America was free. When the people offered him kingship, he smiled and said, "I fought for liberty, not for a crown." And that day, a nation was born, not out of power, but out of principle. The war was over, but peace was the hardest battle yet. The people asked, "Who will lead us now?" Once again, all eyes turned to him. George Washington. He did not want power, but he could not refuse the call of duty. "I come not for power," he said, "but for service." In 1789, he became the first president of the United States. To him, the presidency was not a prize. It was a sacred responsibility. The law must always be above the leader, he said. He built the foundation of democracy, created trust among divided states, and showed that leadership means integrity, not dominance. When the people begged him to stay for a third term, he refused. If I stay forever, he said, the nation will forget what freedom means. He stepped down willingly, a man of power choosing peace. He returned to his farm Mount Vernon to live simply as a farmer once more. In one of his letters he wrote, "I am again what I always wished to be, a free man." When he passed away in 1799, he said softly, "If my nation stays true, I shall never truly die." And he was right. Centuries have passed, empires have fallen, the world has changed, but one name still stands: George Washington. Why? Because he conquered not with weapons, but with character. He never dreamed of being great, he only vowed to be honest. And that is the difference between a leader and a legend. Even today, people do not remember his battles. They remember his faith, fairness, and humility. He taught us that power does not make a man great, character does. True leadership begins not from the throne, but from the conscience. If today's youth could learn this, that success is not about wealth, but truth, then each one of us could become a Washington in our own life. He said, if you want your name to live forever, keep your heart pure. Fame fades, riches fade, but character never dies. Washington lives on in every honest leader, in every act of courage, and in every heart that chooses truth over fear. Because history shows you do not need armies to change the world, you just need one true man. When you stand for truth, you never stand alone. History stands with you. And that is why George Washington was not just the first president of America. He was the first teacher of freedom.